Some struggles leave scars so deep that even time doesn't seem to heal them. You prayed endlessly, but nothing seemed to change. You fought battles no one knows about, and still, you felt alone. You carried pain in your heart for so long that you started to wonder if relief would ever come. And maybe, at some point, you almost gave up. But then something happened. The pain you thought would never leave started to fade. The weight you carried for so long felt lighter. The test that once broke you no longer held power over you. And this is when you realize you've passed the test. Most people don't recognize when they have reached this point. They don't realize that their hardship was never just suffering. It was purification, a preparation for something greater. The Prophet Muhammad said, "Whoever Allah intends good for, He puts them through difficulties." That means your suffering was never random, your struggles were never pointless, and your patience was never wasted. And now, Allah is moving you to something greater. But how do you know if your test has been passed? You may not have noticed it yet, but there are clear signs that your suffering has transformed into something meaningful. The pain no longer controls you. There was a time when the pain felt unbearable. Every thought, every memory, every reminder of what you went through felt like a wound that never healed. You tried to move forward, but the past kept pulling you back. No matter how much you distracted yourself, no matter how many times you told yourself you were fine, the emotions still held you captive. But then something changed. One day you woke up, and the pain didn't feel as sharp. The memories were still there, but they no longer had the same grip on your heart. You started seeing the wisdom behind what happened. You realized that the hardship that once crushed you was actually shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and closer to Allah. This is one of the clearest signs that your test has been passed. Allah never leaves a heart broken forever. He promises in the Quran, Surah Ash-Sharh 94, verse 5 to 6. For indeed, with hardship comes ease. Indeed, with hardship comes ease. The ease doesn't always come in the way you expect. Sometimes Allah doesn't change your situation immediately, but He changes something even greater, your heart. He removes the bitterness, the resentment, the hopelessness. He replaces them with clarity, contentment, and a kind of peace that no one else can understand. And that's when you know you're no longer the person who was crushed by this test. You've stepped into a new phase, one where the pain has transformed into wisdom and the suffering has turned into strength. At the peak of your hardship, everything felt unfair and confusing. You asked yourself why this was happening, why life seemed easier for others, and why, no matter how much you prayed, the pain didn't go away. There were moments when you felt abandoned, moments when the weight of it all made you wonder if your prayers were even being heard. But then, over time, something shifted. The same trial that once felt meaningless started to make sense in ways you never expected. You began seeing how this hardship protected you, how it shaped you, how it pulled you closer to Allah in ways that ease never could. The thing that once broke you actually built you. This is not to say that once you pass the test, the trials will stop coming, because as long as we are alive, we will continue to be tested. This realization itself is a sign that Allah is guiding you through your struggles, refining you, and opening doors that were once closed. Allah reminds us in the Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah 2216. Perhaps you dislike something, yet it is good for you, and perhaps you love something, yet it is bad for you. And Allah knows, while you do not know. This is when you begin to understand that even the most painful moments were never without purpose. Maybe the person who walked away saved you from a future disaster. Maybe the opportunity you lost would have led you to destruction. Maybe the hardship that shook your world was actually your soul's awakening. And when this realization enters your heart, it changes everything. You stop asking, why me? And start saying, Ya Allah, I trust you. That's when you know you're not just surviving your test, you are growing through it. In the middle of your hardship, your du'as were desperate. You begged for relief, for the pain to end, for the situation to change immediately. Some nights, your prayers were filled with tears. Other nights, you were too exhausted to even find the words. All you wanted was for Allah to remove the struggle. But now, your du'as have shifted. Instead of asking, why me? You ask, Ya Allah, what do you want me to learn from this? Instead of begging for the trial to end, you say, Ya Allah, strengthen me through it. Instead of only seeking an escape, you seek wisdom, patience, and closeness to Allah. This shift is a sign of growth, because true faith is not about demanding ease. It's about learning to trust Allah's timing, even when things don't go the way you planned. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "There is no Muslim who calls upon Allah with a dua that does not contain sin or breaking family ties, except that Allah will grant him one of three things. He will give him what he asked for, He will delay it for something better, or He will remove a harm from him." That means every single dua you made was answered, just not always in the way you expected. Maybe Allah didn't remove the hardship, but He strengthened you through it. Maybe He didn't give you what you asked for, but He protected you from something worse. Maybe He delayed the answer, because what's coming is far better than what you imagined. When you start realizing that Allah's wisdom is greater than your own desires, your heart becomes at peace with whatever He has written. This doesn't mean you stop making dua. It means your duas are no longer based on impatience. They are based on trust. That's when you know your connection with Allah has deepened, and your heart is learning to rely on Him completely. As you reflect on your journey, think about how far you've come. The moments that once felt unbearable are now distant memories. The heartbreak that once defined you no longer holds you back. You're not the same person you were when you started this journey. Your struggle shaped you, your patience purified you, and your faith has strengthened in ways you never imagined. And through it all, Allah was with you, guiding you, strengthening you, and preparing you for something greater. If this message touched your heart, comment below. Ya Allah, I trust your plan. Your words might inspire someone else to reflect and strengthen their own connection with Allah. And don't forget, liking and subscribing costs nothing, but it helps spread reminders that bring us all closer to Allah. May Allah bless you, elevate you, and grant you success in both this life and the next. Ameen. Through every hardship, through every loss, and through every moment of uncertainty, you were never alone. Every tear, every silent prayer, and every deep sigh was witnessed by the most merciful. The pain that once seemed endless was never without a purpose. It was written in your story not to break you, but to bring you closer to your Creator. And now, as you stand on the other side of the test, remember that the journey isn't over. Allah is always guiding you, always watching over you, and always leading you towards something greater. Keep trusting, keep believing, and keep walking forward, because what is ahead is far better than what was left behind.